All in Sports Network. We love sports.
Hello, everybody. Back here for another edition of All In Aggies. I'm your host, Ben Peck. Been a little under the weather past couple days, but we are back and ready for another week of Texas A&M football. Coming off the bye week, taking on the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. These are the top 5 things I'm looking for in that game, the pecking order, as we like to call it. But before we get into that, if you can, like the video. If you enjoy it, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think about today's topics. We'll also be going into a new quarterback commit for Texas A&M for the class of 2026. So without further ado, let's get right to it. The number 5 key thing for me against Mississippi State is, how does this team respond from the bye? I've got it down as back from bye. I think it'll be instructive, maybe. This is our first bye week under Mike Elko that we're seeing as Texas A&M fans, viewers, what have you. I anticipate they'll be fully prepared. I wonder if maybe there's certain things that have been worked on that, haven't been refined enough to quite put a heavy emphasis on it in the game plan the past couple weeks. But now with the extra time, we could start to see more of, whether that be more elaborate packages for a Terry Bussey or Jabri Barber, or some of the run game while it stays effective and dominant, but maybe just new little wrinkles here and there to see that. Obviously, to see how the team responds from the time off, I would expect nothing less than Texas A&M to be fully prepared for everything. So I don't think that'll be an issue, but I'll be interested to see. And also, let's just kind of admit, coming off the high of the Mizzou game, and now you come into Mississippi State with LSU right around the corner. I know trap game gets thrown out there a lot, but I'll be interested to see kind of how they really start off in this game as well, because Mississippi State is I saw someone say this, is not the team that lost to Toledo earlier in the year. This Mississippi State team is not that team. They've kind of found a little bit of life, at least offensively. Michael Van Buren in there, starting at quarterback. Blake Shapen out for the year. Jeff Lebby, I think, trying to get a better idea of what they want to do offensively. And let's be honest, that's how, just look back to Oklahoma last year. Like, that team was based off what they did offensively. I know this year it's a little different. They got Brent Venables. They were better defense than they were under the Lincoln Riley years, but still that was like the identity of the team. Obviously with Jeff Lebby, that's going to be a big emphasis. So now that he's kind of, seems like he's found his guy, or at least maybe kind of almost like they're going through a Marcel Reed moment, right? Where they see enough in Michael Van Buren, they think, to maybe, have something to build off of going forward. And they're going to be ready to go, coming off a 10-point loss to Georgia. That really, the score was both maybe a little generous compared to how the game played out, but late score to cut it to 10, but still, like, they did hang in there and they weren't absolutely just bulldozed. That part is accurate. So I'll be interested to see, just again, how this team responds after the time off. I wouldn't anticipate they overlook Mississippi State, but do they come out like fired up? Is there rust? Is it a little flat? I don't know. And I don't know that you can necessarily directly correlate, however, whatever the answer is to that question, to the bye week, but it'll certainly be interesting. Number 4, repeat Connor. Now, listen, I don't need the same numbers from Connor Wigman that we saw against Missouri, but I do want to see similar elements that we saw against Missouri reemerge once again. Even if the volume isn't there in terms of the productivity and the total yards passed, and he still didn't get a touchdown in that Mizzou game. Even if that stuff's not there, I can live with that. But I want to see that this is indeed the Connor Wigman that we thought we were going to have for the beginning of the year, and that he is starting to make strides and be efficient. And some of those receivers coming along as well. That's maybe like a part B of that key that I'm looking for. So Connor Wigman, can he come back to be where he was against Mizzou? I think he will find success, but again, I think they're going to be leaning on the run game either way. So I don't know how much we'll get to see it but maybe at least early on, can we get a little bit of that dynamic versatility to where the run game is opening up the deep ball and the deep ball or the intermediate routes are opening up the run game, vice versa. I think that's going to be kind of this version of Texas A&M's offense under Colin Klein with Connor Wigman back there under center. Number 3, I've got win drives early for the defense. Jeff Lebby going to try to ramp that thing up, go up tempo and gas Texas A&M if you can. Keep the big guys out there on the field. Don't let them sub in and out that defensive line, and let guys, stay fresh. Basically make it so Nick Scorton, Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, all those guys have to continue to stay on the field for multiple reps, more than maybe you would ideally like to have them out there. And can they both get through that okay, but can they win early enough in the drive in order to allow them the opportunity to not just make those subs, but to get some time to breathe on the bench? I do think the other side of that coin with the complementary football, I think you will get the help you need from your offense in terms of running the ball, time of possession, slowing the game down at times. Not necessarily to like a snail's pace or anything, but enough to catch a breather. And I mean, we see it with air raid teams all the time. If not only it's hard to get in a rhythm if you're coming off the field early, but it can be so deflating if you send your defense out there. They go through a long drive. Maybe they give up points. Maybe they don't. Maybe they give up a touchdown. Maybe they hold them to a field goal. But then, it's like boom, boom, boom. You're back out there. That can be demoralizing. So that's something that would help both sides of the ball, offense and defense, if the defense can win early in these downs, create pressure. And I'm not talking about pressure on the quarterback. Yes, do that too. But create just intensity on the offense to come through, and anxiety maybe because that if you're going to throw the defense back out there again, it's going to be tough. Number 2 on the pecking order, we've got another mobile quarterback, a guy that can make plays with his legs. We've seen A&M struggle with that at times. Well, really the opener obviously comes to mind with Riley Leonard, but then, Taylor Green, they both corralled him in moments, but he also was able to extend plays and hit some plays with his legs as well. Obviously, notably the big touchdown to Tesla, but so can Texas A&M consistently limit Michael Van Buren to make him beat you with his arm? I think they should be up to that challenge. Brady Cook is decently mobile. I wouldn't call him scrambler, but he can move around. They got to him. They didn't really let him get anything going. They didn't let Mizzou do anything team-wise as well. So can you limit the mobile quarterback? I think it's a wrinkle that, we think of like all the excitement around go back to Oklahoma's offense last year with what Dylan Gabriel could do, with what Blake Shapen offers, guy that they brought in to Mississippi State, what Jackson Arnold, at least the vision of Jackson Arnold, what he offers in terms of mobility. So obviously that's something Jeff Lebby appreciates in a quarterback and will make use of. Can you limit that and both his total rushing yards, but also extending plays and opening up plays down the field in the passing game? And then number 1, I've got no crazy stuff, but I didn't write stuff. It's just life in the SEC. It's Starkville, but not even specific to Starkville. A big part of all these road losses that had happened before the Florida game, it's just there was always something strange usually that seemed to pop up. I think back to 2 years ago, like the South Carolina game, kickoff, and then we're snapping it off Haynes King as he's walking to the line to make a check, and you look up, and then you throw a pick, and you look up, and it's 17-0, just like that, and they still almost come back to at least have a chance in that game. Mississippi State, last time you're there, blocked field goal return for a touchdown that probably was offsides and shouldn't have counted, but it did. And then, you gave him a pick six in that game. You've had quarterbacks go down with injuries. Tennessee last year, multiple turnovers. So, some of those are fluky. Some of them are not. Not to say every bad play that happens is a weird thing. Like, it comes down to how well you're executing. But just don't put yourself in a position to have kind of this weird energy settle in. And because I think that's the path for a Mississippi State victory. If I was on the other side, and I'm telling you, my 5 keys for Mississippi State, it's, hey, get the offense going, move Van Buren around, and then finally make sure that we make some plays happen, out of chaos. So some not dissent's not the right word, but so some unevenness within that Texas A&M offense, and then see what you can do. Think back to what was it, Arkansas Auburn, like how that game they had like 5 turnovers in a row. At one point, it felt like don't get yourself into that situation. Now, A&M has been very good about taking care of the football. If you can get some turnovers, great. I don't think you need to win this game. Just be efficient, be productive, take care of the ball, handle your business, get out of there with a win. Keep in mind, this is only the second. This only the second true road game under Mike Elko. I mean, you have Florida, and then Arkansas neutral site. I'm just making sure I got this right. Missouri, and then this. So obviously, the Florida game was a step in the right direction in terms of how to handle your business on the road, and then Arkansas sort of away from home, although that got a little messy. But I think it's maybe premature to say this team totally has it figured out on the road. Now, they did come out dominant against Florida. I will give you that. But, let's see how they can do it again. And then going back to my first point, especially coming off a bye. Does the bye help you? You would presume. Certainly, hopefully helps you get healthier, but does it help you stay focused and avoid those lapses and stay concentrated on the task at hand? So those are my 5 keys. The pecking order, again, just to recap: number 5, back from the bye; number 4, repeat Connor; number 3, win the drives early; number 2, mobile quarterback; and number 1, no crazy stuff down in Starkville. All right. Again, if you're still with us, you obviously like the video. Go ahead and just do it on the YouTube so we can get a little algorithm boost. Give us a subscription if you're so kind. Let's help populate your feed and everyone's feed with more Aggie content, more Aggie propaganda. As we begin our push to 500, we're probably going to hit 500 subscribers today. You guys have been fantastic, awesome. Again, I know I had to go away a little bit earlier this week, but we're back. We're cooking. We're going to have a post-game reaction tomorrow as well, so be sure to stay tuned for that. You will not want to miss it. All right. Now let's go to the big news of the weekend, of the week, I should say, on the recruiting trail. A victory for Colin Klein and the offense, picking up 2026 quarterback out of Utah. He is Helaman Kasuga. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but apologies. But, like I said, junior out of Utah, 24/7 composite ranking. He is the 173rd prospect nationally, 14th best quarterback in the class. Again, this is by composite, 4-star recruit. But let's tell you, not just a little bit about him, but I think an overarching theme of kind of my attitude on recruiting in general, but why I think this one in particular is interesting. Now, first, let's tell you a little bit about Helaman. Made the announcement earlier this week, and we're going to try to spice this up here. I've been practicing. Look at this. We're going to add a new dimension to All In Aggies. We're going to share a screen. We are going to take a look at some of his highlights right now. Bang. There it is. There he goes. As we take a look at this. Now listen. Kasuga, versatile. He's got a good release, got good mobility. He can do some good things. Kind of Marcel Reed-like, in my opinion, in terms of, he's not going to be at the top of everyone's board, but just makes plays and is a gamer. And again, these things you're seeing, I guess this is from this year, but He threw for over 4,000 yards as a sophomore. In fact, let me bring that up. His sophomore stats, again, keep in mind he's a junior right now going through his junior season. Completed, I believe it was around 65% of his passes thereabouts, 4,000 yards passing, 34 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 279 on the ground, 2 rushing touchdowns. That is per 24/7 Sports. And the reason I'm also intrigued by him is as we get into that ranking, I'll tell you kind of how I process these things in terms of the tiers in which I get excited about certain guys and how I just handle my hype for a certain player. I think if you're talking about a 5-star recruit in general, like anything, that's obviously someone who moves the needle. And that's someone you got to pay attention to. And so I do closely monitor those recruiting battles as someone who's not knee deep in it and just focusing on every single little thing every single time. I've learned to not get overly emotionally attached to recruits and commits. Having covered A&M, having gone to Syracuse where we had guys coming in as 4 stars that didn't really pan out to be much of anything, having guys like Torian York who come in as 3 stars at Texas A&M, 3 stars, maybe low end 4-star, and then they turn out to be some of the most productive players at Texas A&M. So, and I've been just a college football fan for a while. I've been working in this industry for about 10 years. So I try not to put too much into star ratings, with the exception of sort of the tiers I go by. 5 stars make a difference regardless of where you're at. I think top 50 prospects is that next sort of like benchmark I say to say, okay, maybe they're not a 5-star for everybody, but they're probably pretty close. And so, I definitely weigh that with those guys. Top 100 guys after that are, obviously that next level of, okay, I think those matter. There are only so many to go around, and you get what you can get. Outside the top 100, I shift my expectations to say, like, it's not that you can find talent past the top 100 prospects, clearly. But at that point, I start to think it's more about the fit and the mental makeup, a lot of stuff that we on the outside don't have access to. It's kind of a crapshoot again, without the internal information, it's kind of a crapshoot. So really, this, in my opinion, is a test of Colin Klein, Mike Elko, and their evaluation. Because, like I said, he comes in as the 14th best quarterback. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I meant to do so. Marcel Reed, I'm sure he probably came in similar. Like, he was a guy, and he wasn't like totally under the radar, but he came in as the 20th best prospect for 24/7 Sports, 295 nationally. So actually a little lower than Kasuga. So, and obviously he's turned out to be just fine, but that's because he fits what they want to do. He's obviously got a pretty good head on his shoulders from what we can tell talking to him. And I guess that's it. He fits the scheme, right? That's important. And so I think this will be interesting because, if there's one position where you have to call your shot, it's quarterback, and your evaluation, you really have to nail it, trust it, do all those things. Colin Klein and Mike Elko, the staff, putting the trust in Kasuga. I know they're recruiting. They got Longstreet coming in, and you're going to try to go after probably a quarterback per recruiting cycle every year anyway. But I don't know. I just I'm intrigued to see how they think he could fit into this offense. Again, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Marcel Reed in terms of even the mobility. Like, maybe not quite as high end, although he is still growing into his body and everything. But he strikes me as someone who can move fluidly, but doesn't necessarily lean on it. And then last thing I want to go back to as we talk about rankings and ratings and, how do you set your expectations for a kid like this? I want to go back to some 2014 recruiting rankings, because that was a year I was started my career in Lubbock covering Texas Tech. There was a kid who came in as a relatively unheralded quarterback prospect by the name of Patrick Mahomes from Little White House, Texas. And long story short, he turned out okay. Again, Kasuga comes in as the 24/7 composite, 14th best quarterback in the class. I think these are just 24/7's rankings, but 24/7's, their best quarterbacks in that 2014 class, they've got Patrick Mahomes as number 47. Some guys who were the 14th best quarterback was Deshaun Kaiser. Some guys above him, right above him, you've got DJ Gillens, Wisconsin, Drew Barker, Kentucky. But then guys after that level, I mean, you've got anywhere from Justin Hansen on Oklahoma, Rafe Peavy, Arkansas. I forgot about him. William Crest, West Virginia. But then you keep going further, and you'll find guys like Mason Rudolph and Trace McSorley, Patrick Mahomes, as I mentioned. So I think all that to say, he's kind of the type of prospect that I think where he ends up, the destination is going to really determine what you think of him in terms of his raw talent skill set. Obviously, there's a case where these rankings are fluids and they could change a lot, and he's still got a whole rest of his junior year to go and senior year. So keep that in mind as well. But, really, this is sort of not going to say a gamble because I think he believes in it, but this is a test for, okay, how is the evaluation process for Colin Klein and this coaching staff? Because, again, Hussein Longstreet, everyone wants him. So that's kind of easy to, I guess, say, yes, that's a good decision. But I'm interested to see how good they are, how precise they are with some of these prospects that fall outside of those tiers I mentioned, outside of the 5 stars, the top 50, top 100. I mean, there's guys that A&M missed on. Nick Scorton. Brandon Joseph's a kid that went to College Station High School, turned into an All-American safety that did not really get a look from Texas A&M. So A&M's missed on some of those guys in the past. I think that's some of the hope for the future is that Mike Elko will be able to find some of those diamonds in the rough. And could this be one? Again, not to say, I mean, he's top 200 prospect, not to overdo it, but I'll be interested to see. But again, I like what I'm seeing, and congratulations to him, his family. Excited to see him in Aggieland, what he can do with the Aggies and how Colin Klein finds a spot for him in his offense. All right, that is going to do it for today's episode of All in Aggies. Again, I'm your host, Ben Peck. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you're thinking about Mississippi State. In fact, comment if you're still watching. Let me know a score prediction, what you think. I'll give you one. I'm going to say A&M wins this thing tomorrow 34-17. I'll say Mississippi State gets aggressive a couple times to go for touchdown. I was going to say 34-14. And then A&M's just kind of taking the air out of the ball after they build up a little bit of a lead. So I'll say 34-17 Texas A&M. Let me know what you think. Too high, too low, too optimistic, pessimistic. Let me know. That's all the time we got for you. We will see you on Saturday with a post-game reaction. Until then, y'all take care.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.